The Fantasy Skirmisher.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Fantasy Skirmisher. Today we are going to go through the reading tutorial to get a sense of how Maladum plays, start learning the game, and this is a really handy booklet that'll help get you started. The regular rules is quite thick and detailed, as you can see, and so this is a great way to get you started. So this is more than just read through example of play. This is very interactive, and it kind of reminds me of other program learning games, both old and new, such as Starship Troopers that came out I think in 1978 or 79, and also more recently Gloomhaven, Jaws of the Lion, which did a really good job with the program learning. Anyway, so this booklet takes you through the first 4 rounds, and then it leaves you to finish out the scenario yourself. And so it shows you what the components are, as you can see here. We're not using everything, of course, for this. And then has these setup instructions. So let's go ahead and go to the board. This tutorial uses 2 characters. So we've got Callan, and he is a fighter. He starts with armor, and he has an axe that rolls 2 dice. And you can see the board here has got lots of information here. So you've got health, skill, magic, actions, and experience points. I believe this is the cost for the character. And then these are class boards, which are not used in the tutorial. And this is the equipment slot, so you can fit as many equipment or carry as many equipment as fits in these slots. So he has an axe that rolls 2 dice. Then you've got his health, his skills, and magic. And so as you get wounded, the pegs come off, or cast a spell, pegs come off, so on and so forth. All right, so that is Callan, and they're going to start in the staging area here. And then we've got Morana. She could cast magic. So per the instructions, I crossed off 2 spells, and on her rook card here, she will be able to cast Bless and also Focused Energy, which we'll see as we move through the game here. We've got the event cards, and we have got the adversary board. So this is all the stats for the monsters that could come up. And this is the dread tracker. So as the game progresses, pegs are placed in here, and then just the dungeon or whatever environment you're in gets more and more dangerous. And so in this scenario, if you reach dismay, the 3rd bar here, the game is lost. These are entry points for the creatures. So you can see they're numbered 1 through 6. So you roll a six-sided die. Creatures could also be enter through these little grave holes right here. And so those could be dangerous as well. And I need to make sure the doors are closed for this scenario. So of course the big thing you do is set up the dungeon. And you just follow the instructions. It was really easy to do, very intuitive. And you just got to make sure you have the right types of connections. And it's easy to figure out if you needed a T or just a corner or something straight. All good. And there's 3 pieces of terrain that you use in the scenario. So we've got a chest. It has been seeded with some treasures from the bag here per the instructions. Or actually that's a crate, not a chest. Speaking of chest, here is the treasure chest. So the furniture is very interactive. It opens, you have stuff in there. And then we have a tomb. It's a really cool looking tomb, and inside is an objective marker. And that is the goal of this scenario, is to get into the tomb, get the objective marker, and then safely make your way out, which is right here. The setup also tells you which tokens to grab, and they're clearly marked on the punch boards. And so there are treasures and a couple of traps in the bag here. And then the markers we're going to need are search. These are tokens that show that your actions have been taken. bless tokens, and 1 poison token. On the Battle Systems website, there are tutorials on how to build dungeons and also make the furniture. It wasn't that difficult and just took minutes to do that. And one thing I really enjoy about the terrain in this game, from what I'm seeing, is that it's very interactive and they have special rules for each type of furniture. So it just took a few minutes. While you do not need glue, I would recommend using PVA glue just to make sure that the furniture here is very solid and won't come apart. Let's get started. It is round 1 and it is the dread phase. So Maladum is played in a series of rounds and each round begins with the dread phase. Starting in turn 2, we will be drawing event cards, but not on the first turn. So the dread tracker gauges the amount of magic in the vicinity and the relative aggression of your enemies as it rises each round. So the higher the dread, as I mentioned before, the more deadly and numerous the adversaries become. So for now, what we're going to do is just stick a single peg in the dread phase into the dread tracker. After the dread phase comes the adventurer phase. And since we're playing solitaire, I don't need to have a first player mark or anything like that, but if we were playing cooperatively, I would. So per the tutorial, Callan will move first, and since he is not currently in play, his first action must be to move into the gaming area. So characters can move up to 4 squares in any direction. They cannot move over terrain or over enemies. You can move diagonally, so we're going to move 1, 2, 3, 4, and put him in front of the crate here. Now for his second action, he's going to do a search and see what's inside that crate there. Now adventurers must be in contact with it like he is and not engaged with the enemy. So let's go ahead and take the crate, open it up, and there's some items in here. So kind of take a look at the inside. So we'll put the crate back, put the lid on it, and what we're going to do is see what we got. Well, we have, looks like a mallet, not as powerful as the axe, but we'll hang on to that. And it looks like it does different type of damage, of course, like maybe blunt versus piercing, but that does not factor into this tutorial. And then we've got, not sure what that is, some type of throwing knife, perhaps. I'm not sure what all this iconography is yet, but there we go. And then we've got, looks like a gold nugget or something. So we'll just go ahead and put that in the slot. Come on, come on, come on. There we go. So there you go. Just to show that he's taken all his actions, we're going to put the marker on his player board, and it is now Miranda's phase. So she is going to do a double move. So we're going to move 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. So that is both of her actions. And then, of course, we put the activation marker on her player board to show that she has moved. It is now the adversary phase, and it's the revenants in this case. So we look at the dread tracker here, and we roll 1 die, and the type of monster that would come on is a revenant. So not too bad yet. And here is the stats for the Lamenter. Has first strike. I'm not sure what all these are yet. Rolls 2 dice in attack and can poison a character. But this is the stats for all the different monsters in the scenario here. You can see it's double-sided. All right, so we'll set this back down. So what we're going to do is we are going to roll a single die. And in this learning scenario, what we would do is we would roll this. So we pretend we'll roll the dice, and this is the result. A single hand coming up from the grave. Other options would be the entry points. That's the faces. But here, it's going to come up from one of these holes in the ground. And we have 1. So now we have a decision to make, because there's 2 grave points. There's one here and one here that are the same distance away from an adventurer. In both cases, the revenants at these locations would have to move one square to engage either adventurer. So a revenant at the other nearby grave point would have to move 2 squares, which is right here, which is not eligible. And so decisions like this are going to come up, and if there's ever multiple equally valid targets for a rule, the first player gets to choose where the enemy will show up. So for the tutorial purposes, we're assuming one player is controlling both, which we are, and we'll make all the decisions. And so what we decide to do is to choose the grave point right here, closest to Callan, and he's a bit tougher. I mean, he's got the armor which absorbs 1 hit, so we're going to place him there. And so I just want to point out that as you go through the tutorial, which is really nice, it references the specific rules in the rule book. For the regular rule book, page 40, the deluxe rule book, which is the hardbound one, page 42. The rule book points you to the NPC AI action chart, just so you could see it, but it is outlined in the tutorial, so you really don't, but it's just to help learn the game. And it's pretty obvious what this revenant's going to do. He's going to move next to Callanan, so I'll move him actually right here, and he's going to attack. Lamenters only have 1 action. However, they also have first strike icon. So he uses 1 action to move adjacent, but could use first strike to do a free attack. The red and blue dice are always used. There's 1 blue die, and you always use the blue die. Any additional dice will be red. And so in this example, we rolled a blue skull here and 1 hit on the red die. Now, this action, this little explosion or whatever it is, shows that it's a hit. The skull means it's a blunder. And it will sometimes have an adverse effect if you roll a blunder or blunders. But for this purpose, we're just going to treat them as blanks for the tutorial. So this is what was rolled. And then he achieved, because of this, a hit against Callanan. However, Callanan, if you recall, has armor which absorbs his defense 1 hit, so there is no effect. Next is the NPC or non-player character phase, where you would normally proceed to this phase where other non-adversary NPCs, such as wandering beasts and the like, will take their actions. But there's none for this tutorial, so this phase is skipped for the learning tutorial. Finally is the assessment phase. So this is the end phase basically for the round where we do cleanup. In this case, we just remove the activation tokens. That's all we need to do. It's early on in the game, so there's no other cleanup required. Now we are on to round 2. It is now the dread phase in round 1, and we begin by adding a black peg to the dread tracker here. We're still in the disquiet phase, but now we draw an event card. So these create new challenges for the adventurers. Enemies may show up, traps may be sprung, or the environment may change around you. So we draw the first card, and it is Alarm. And as you can see, there's 3 different entries on this card: Disquiet, Distress, Dismay, and Desperation, Doom. So those are all areas in the dread tracker. We are in the disquiet area of the dread tracker. So your presence has sounded an alarm. Increase the dread by 1. All right, so we place another peg, and we are still in the disquiet phase. It's the adventure phase, and Marana is going to go first. And seeing that Callan is likely to be the one taking the hits, we're going to decide that Marana will help him out. She's the magic user of the group, so she has access to spells, 2 of them that we had marked. So we are going to attempt to cast Bless right here on the top. Target gains X blessed counters. Now, the action icon next to Bless shows that it requires an action to use. And Bless is marked in purple, which is a vicarious spell, which means that it targets other characters within medium range of line of sight. So what that means is we've got 2 range counters. So this one is short range, and this one is medium range. So you can see we're well within a line of sight, so we could cast that spell. Once you decide what spell to cast, you need to decide how much power to use. Almost all spells, including Bless, are variable. That's where that X is, right? So the X in each spell refers to the number of magic pegs spent to cast it. So magic pegs represent the malicites flowing through a character's blood and determine how much magic they can use during a game. This is all spelled out in the lore, which is in the main rule book. So for each spell, adventurers can cast a number of pegs up to their rank. An adventurer's rank is determined by the number of rows on their XP track, which is right here, with at least 1 space filled. This will change during a campaign. Now Morana, she is a rank 1, which means it's an easy decision for us. She can only spend 1 peg to cast the spell, so that's what we're going to do. So we're going to remove 1 blue peg, that's the magic, right, from her dashboard and return it to the supply. Now, wouldn't it be great if magic was predictable? But where's the fun in that? So, whenever magic pegs are spent, you must roll the magic die, and to see how well the character controls the magic. So we're going to roll the die, and it comes up as a 3. So right there. So it comes up as a 3. And there's some really handy reference cards that come with this game. And they have one for each die to explain what it is. So 3, that means mental recovery. After current effects are resolved, restore 1 magic peg. Great, so she gets that magic peg back. That's fantastic. And, good things can happen like that, or bad things. Also, just so you know, that this die, it looks kind of complicated. There's a lot of stuff on it. It serves as a 6-sided die, D6. That's why you got the numbers on it, plus the magic symbols with the reference card. And then it has a bunch of arrows. So this is just a randomizer if you need to roll a die to see where something goes, like a wandering beast or something. So that's so it is a multi-purpose die. The spell is successfully cast. We take a blessed token and we put it in Callan's dashboard. The blessed token allows for you to re-roll 1 die. It could be from the adversary or your own die roll, but you got to take that new result. And then we're going to do is restore the magic peg back to Morana's dashboard. And then also, you may remember that the Rising Dead represents not only aggression of your adversaries, but also the amount of magic in the area. Casting spells will increase that. The first time each round that an adventurer spends magic pegs, 1 must be added to the tracker. So we're going to take another blue peg from the supply, and we're going to add it to the first empty space in the Dread tracker. Right here. And so now that action is complete. For Morana's second action, she is going to move 1, 2, 3 spaces to move right in front of the door. That is her second action. But there is one more thing that she can do. And this is something called effortless action. So it's basically like a free action. And opening a door is an effortless action. So you may make a single one of these type of actions each round. So they're just quick feats that could be accomplished while on the run. So what she is going to do is open the door. Her action is complete. And so we put the activation marker on her dashboard. It is now Callan's turn, and he is currently engaged with a Lamenter. So he is going to attack. So he's going to use his axe, which rolls 2 dice, and the result that he rolls is 2 hits. So we look at the stats for the Lamenter, and he has no defense. So he has to take both hits. He could only take 1 wound before dying, and so the Lamenter has been killed. Just a quick note, you notice the different colors here. So the blue represents weapons. And also if a character takes a hit, it comes off the green pegs here, which is the health. And if you use your last peg, well, the character is defeated. Callanan has one action left, so what he's going to do is he is going to move up to the door, and for his effortless action, he is going to bust it open. So the second adventure phase is now over, and it is now the adversary phase. We're still just barely in the disquiet band, and so we're going to roll the Revenant die again to see how they arrive. So this time the roll results in this, so that means 2 Lamenters will show up, but it's not through a graveyard, through one of the entry points. So we're going to roll the d6, okay, the magic die here. And so the roll that we are going to do is we roll the die, and it will result in a 6. Therefore, we take 2 Lamenters, and they are going to enter an entry point 6. Since the Lamenters are not in play yet, we use the AI chart, but what they're going to do is move towards the closest player, or closest characters, which is Marana. So we're going to move the first Lamenter, and that Lamenter is going to move 4 spaces to here, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 for the second one, and they're going to show up at the door. So now we've got a face-off right here. Finally, it is the assessment phase. We remove the activation counters. That's all we need to do, and we are done with round 2. Sometimes, in the assessment phase, it'll also be used to resolve status effects. But Blessed, which is the only one in play so far, has not been used, so we don't have to worry about it. It is now round 3, and we start with the Dread phase, putting a peg into the tracker, which moves us into the Distress band. Now we draw an event card, and we are feeling lucky. Reduce Dread by 1. All adventures in play become blessed. So as you can see here, not every single card is something bad that happens to you. So we're back in disquiet, thank goodness, right? And we all become blessed. Now, Callum is already blessed, but he gets a second blessed token. And if you remember, this allows the characters to re-roll a die, or force one of the creatures to re-roll a die as well. Callum is going to go first, and for his first action, he's going to move 1, 2, 3, 4. And then he's going to use an effortless action, and this one is called Dash. So it just represents a quick sprint to get to where you need to go, or ducking for cover, things like that. So he's going to move right here. Now for his second action, we're going to do a room search. So he could use the second to engage a Lamenter this turn, but he would not have any actions left to attack it. So we're just going to stay where we are and search the room. And that's where these search tokens come into play. Callan could use his second action to engage a Lamenter this turn, but he would not have any actions left to actually attack it. So what we're going to do is we are going to do a second type of search. We saw the first one already, which is searching pieces of furniture, such as this crate or this chest that's right here, or this tomb. But you could do something called a general search. So we'll be searching a room. And so what we would do is just take the token bag, and remember there are 2 traps in here, so we don't know what we're going to draw. So I got a token here, and it is, to be honest, I am not sure what that is. I'd have to look it up, but that's not the point of this tutorial. But we are going to put it in his inventory. So you see he still has some room left there. And then we're going to mark the room as being searched. Now, there are some instructions what to do if we pulled one of the 2 traps. The first one's an alarm trap, where we would add another peg to the Doom tracker, or a spike trap, where we resolve this as a melee, rolling 2 dice. And as you can see here, it is really well referenced as far as all the different rules that are discussed and what page number they are in the rule book. It is now Miranda's turn, and she is going to cast one of her other spells, which is Focused Energy, right here. And this is X dice ranged attack. And she has, as you can see, if you look through here, she has line of sight to both Lamenters. Now, Focused Energy represents the caster forming malicites in the air into a targeted missile. So it resolves as a ranged attack, just as if the character was firing an arrow. As an elemental spell, which is marked in green, the target must be in medium range and line of sight, like Bless, but as a ranged attack, the cover rules may also apply. So as I said, they're both in line of sight, although the lower threshold of the entrance is obscured, obscures the bases. Like the bases of the minis. It's not enough to be in cover, so they remain unprotected. So we're going to choose the Lementer on the left-hand side. So she's going to attempt to cast a spell. She's rank 1, so she can only remove one peg. So she's going to remove another blue peg from her dashboard here. So she has one left. And then we need to roll the die. So the die is rolled, and the simulated die roll here is a 2. You see nothing's on it. And so let's go ahead and just take a look at what 2 means. It means mental stability, no further effect. So she is fine. She will not regain the peg, and the spell is resolved as normal. So other than cover, which won't apply in this case, range attacks are resolved exactly like melee attacks. So X equals 1, so a single die roll is made for the attack, and she rolls a blank. Oh no, that's a disaster. Nothing happens. However, don't forget that she's feeling lucky, quote unquote, because she has that bless counter, which can be spent to reroll a die. So this allows you to ignore the result of the die and roll it again using a new result instead. So we decided to do that. So we are going to discard her bless token here, re-roll, and we roll a hit. So the Lemter is defeated and it is removed from the gaming area. Now, as before, the final step of casting a spell is to resolve any applicable effects of the magic die, which is none in this case, and add a blue peg to the tracker as if it is the first magic use of the round. So we are going to take blue peg and put it in the tracker, and that moves us into the distress band there. For her second action, we're going to move her to the nearby chest. So we're going to move 1, 2, 3, 4, just so she's on the far end, because perhaps she'll be best protected there. And that concludes her activation, and they have both been activated. It is now the adversary phase, and Miranda's magic has pushed the dread into the next band, which is distress, meaning that the adversary arrival this round will be resolved with the distress values. When multiple character types are shown, they are resolved in the order listed. Okay, so first we're going to roll the Revenant die to see how many Lamenters show up, and we will roll a blank. So none of them show up. So we're pretty lucky this round. That means no Lamenters arrive. So now the distress band brings Myria into play, another type of Revenant. So instead of rolling the die, the Myria simply has a 1 next to its icon. Okay. And I should say here. And one of these will arrive every round. We still need to determine its rival location, so we roll the magic die. So we roll the magic die and we get this result here. So resulting in a 1. So we take a Miria and place it next to entry point 1. And entry point 1, okay, first of all, here's the Miria right here. And that's going to go right here. If adversaries of multiple types are in play, they activate in rank order. So here is the ranks. Okay? And so referring to the board, as we are now, Miria are rank 2 and limiters are rank 1. So the Miria will activate first. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a double move to get him within line of sight and to try to engage. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, then 1, 2, 3, 4. So you can see we have a Marana right here, just 2 spaces away from this Miria. Now we're going to move the Lamenter, and he is going to move 1 space next to Callan here. And it will use its first strike to attack. So what we're going to do is roll the attack die here. And it gets, and this will be the result for the tutorial. So 2 hits on the blue die. So it's a critical hit. Not only have 2 hits been scored, but additional effects will apply. So the poison icon that is next to the Lamenter's attack status means that it'll poison the target if it scores a critical hit, even if no damage was caused. So now what we need to do is put the poison token on Callum's dashboard there. Callan has 2 blessed tokens, and so he decides he's going to use one of them to re-roll that die, and comes up, unfortunately, with the same result. So he has to take that poison. Now, his armor absorbs 1 hit, so the damage is negated for 1, and then he has to remove a green health peg for the second damage. It is now the assessment phase, and both activation markers are removed, but now we must deal with that poison effect. So the die is rolled for Callan, and the result is, per our tutorial, we rolled a 4. So this effect forces him to lose one of his valuable skill pegs, which he might need later. We decide to spend Callan's bless counter to re-roll the die and hope for a better result. The die is re-rolled, and it results in a 2. So the loss of 1 health peg. So return one of Callan's green health pegs to the supply. He is looking a little worse for wear. Maybe the next round will be more successful. So we remove another one. It is the 4th and final round for our tutorial before we take over. And it is now the dread phase. So we're going to begin by adding another peg to the tracker. And then we're going to draw our next event, which is Fiery Touch. So this could be trouble. This card calls for all engaged adversaries to immediately make a 2-dice attack using the burning ability. The Lamenter engaged with Callan does this now. So he's going to roll the dice, and the dice result is 1 hit and 1 fumble, but we don't use the fumble in the tutorial. That comes later in the more advanced rules. All right, so the Lamenter engaged got the 1 hit, but Callan's armor is able to absorb that hit. And so we certainly wouldn't want him poisoned and on fire at the same time, right? So not bad. All engaged adversaries have attacked. So now all unengaged adversaries, the Miria, should also be moved. This follows all normal targeting rules, so it will continue moving towards Marana and moves in right behind her. but it will not yet attack. So we discard the event, and that phase is over. It is Mirana's turn for the adventure phase, and she's unable to cast spells while engaged, and if we attempt to move her away from the Myria, it will attack her. And then it shows reference to attacks of opportunity in the rulebook, page 23 to be exact. And so therefore we're going to decide to use her first action to attack it with the quarterstaff. So again, the blue markers are weapons, blue tokens I should say, and so the quarterstaff rolls 2 dice. So we roll the 2 dice, and her attack gets 2 hits. The Myria's armor of 1 negates one of the hits, because it has an armor of 1. As you can see right there. But the other will damage it, and it defeats the character, which gets removed from play. So her original plan of searching the chest is put on hold for now. Mirana's second action is to repeat the success of the last turn, casting focused energy on the Lamenter attacking Callan. So you can see that there is line of sight here. Unfortunately, Mirana cannot fully see the Lamenter because Callan is partially blocking the view to its square. The Lamenter therefore will benefit from cover, working just like armor and making it harder to hit. At a longer distance, shooting at an engaged comrade would be risky, but within short range, Mirana can avoid hitting Callan, so there's no further penalty. So we're going to move the blue peg from Mirana's dashboard here. And as always, the magic die must be rolled. This time it rolls, where is the 6? There we go. We rolled a 6, which is unstoppable. This effect resolves the spell as if an additional peg has been spent. That is x equals 2 instead of 1. So 2 dice are rolled, and the result for the spell is, let's roll. The dice are rolled. This is the result, which gets 2 hits. One of these is negated by the Lamenter's cover penalty, but the second one will remove it from play. So with her remaining effortless action, we decide that Mirana will throw her morsel to Callan so he can use it to heal. Items can be thrown at a square in short range, and then the blue die is rolled to determine its accuracy. So as a reminder, this is the short range. You can see definitely within short range. So we're going to roll the blue die, and it's a roll of 1 hit. The throw wasn't quite accurate enough for Callan's catch, but the morsel has landed at his feet. So we're going to remove it from her inventory and place it in his square. So see, the morsel here is an apple. So she throws an apple and it lands in his square. Now that Callan is free of enemies, we decide that he needs to recover from his injuries with a rest action. But first he uses his effortless action to pick up the morsel, and we'll place it in his inventory. Resting allows characters to recover their energy, restoring pegs, and removing negative status effects. Resting requires 2 consecutive actions. In addition to items with the rest icon, can boost its effects. So Callan uses both of his actions to do this now. The rest action itself will restore one of his missing health pegs. So we put that back in. There we go. And remove his poison status. So we remove the poison token. The morsel is used to restore an additional health peg and is discarded back to the token pouch in the process. So we make these adjustments, and that ends Callan's turn. After round 4, on the last page, it says over to you. So it asks you that now that you know all the basics, to go ahead and finish this scenario, which requires to get to the tomb and to get the objective marker, and then bring it back out to the exit here where you will be safe. So it does give some really good advice here on how to learn the game because it does mention here that it's an immersive gaming experience which is designed to offer freedom and creativity through its intuitive actions and high level of detail. Of course, representing such a wide range of abilities on the tabletop results in a rather hefty rulebook, as you'll have no doubt noticed. So for this reason, if you're new to our games, we recommend learning the rules gradually rather than attempting to use everything at once. And so it just gives really good advice on how to go about that. And then I suggest that you play through this same scenario again, but without the programmed learning. So you're just doing everything yourself. So that way you get more familiar with the rules, get more comfortable with them, and then you can start adding even other elements to the same scenario, such as skills, which were not covered in the learning tutorial. And so that is, I hope, gives you a sense of how the game flows, how it works with this very simple tutorial that comes with the game. I'm very excited about this system. I can't wait to dive deeper into it. I can't wait to introduce my friends to it. I knew it was going to be a good game, but I didn't realize how impressive this is, really. So so far I've got just a great impression, as you could tell. And that's enough talking. I'll see you next time on the Fantasy Skirmisher.